although there may be a few, I doubt that there are many in church here this morning who really know what it means to beg. I mean, really beg. Like this woman is begging. She's desperate. She's not just, excuse me, she's crying out. And crying out in such a fashion that she is a pain in the neck to the apostles. And they said, send her away, for goodness sakes. Get rid of her. And at the very beginning, Jesus has no response. And that may be something that we may have an experience of. Asking for something and no response. But Jesus' lack of response to this woman and to us initially is not a sign of his dismissal. No. Jesus' silence and God's silence in the face of our requests oftentimes is to find out if we're really serious about what we're asking for. How bad do we want this? How much do we want this? And so God's silence is ordered to one thing, to increase my desire. To increase my desire. And so the apostles, after her crying out after them, they get sick of it and they say to the Lord, send her, will you get rid of her? And finally he says, my mission is to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It is not to those outside of the Jewish nation. She worships. Only God gets latria, worship. And then she prevails on God's defining attribute, Kyrios, mercy. Please, Lord, help me, have mercy on me. And Jesus responds by saying, it isn't right to take what I was sent to give to the children, to the dogs. That's what the text says. But sometimes it's misinterpreted as to what the meaning is here. It can sound like not only a dismissal, but an insult. And Jesus is not about insulting anyone. And so the Greek word for dog is kunara. But the word that is used here, the word that Jesus used, is kunaria, puppy. It isn't right to take and give it to the puppies. But what do children do at the table? They feed the puppies. And so this woman doesn't disagree with what he's saying. In fact, she agrees. That's right, Lord. But the fact that you've left Jerusalem, you've left that territory, and you've come into pagan territory must mean that you're looking for a stray. I'm happy as a little puppy to accept little crumbs of whatever you're willing to give. For saying that, she's the beneficiary of a great gift. She's the beneficiary of a great gift. And so as I said this morning in the very beginning, I think few of us know what it means to beg. Few of us know what it means to be in such dire straits in a situation where we're forced to cry out and to beg. We have someone who's going to address the community this morning of people who know what it is to cry out, who know what it is to beg in a certain sense because everything they had was taken from them. And so God has truly blessed us in abundance, in hopes that by blessing us in abundance, that through his generosity, we would bless others with less. So, Don, I invite you to come and address the community.
Thank you, Father. Very happy to have this opportunity to speak to you this morning on behalf of Mary, Mother of God Mission Society. The purpose of our society is to provide spiritual and material help to the Catholic Church in the Diocese of Vladivostok and the far east of Russia. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to work there for a couple of months. I got to know the priests and their social service programs firsthand. And hopefully I can bring you an appreciation of these priests and their work and why they need and deserve your prayers and financial support. Vladivostok's a city of about 700,000 people located on the farthest southeast corner of Russia on the Sea of Japan, 6,000 miles and about 11 time zones away from Moscow and St. Petersburg, the cities that we're most familiar with. In this remote but scenic area, Mary, Mother of God Mission was founded in 1867, grew into the largest Catholic parish in Russia by the early 1900s. There were about 10,000 Catholics living there then, many of them Polish and Ukrainians, who had come east working on the Trans-Siberian Railroad or had simply migrated east. After the original wooden church burned, they built a beautiful cathedral. It's the largest Gothic church in Russia and is still standing. Things were going great, and then the Communist Revolution started. And this began decades of a godless society and the worst persecution in the history of the church. Throughout Russia, churches, both Orthodox and Catholic, were destroyed or converted to other uses. In Vladivostok, the Orthodox cathedral was dynamited on an Easter Sunday morning. It was a cruel message to these people. Their faith was dead. The Catholic cathedral was appropriated, converted into a state archives. They did this by knocking out the stained glass windows, sealing up the openings, installing 3 interior floors. Clergy were killed, exiled, or sent to labor camps. Bishop Slavodsky, the 83-year-old pastor of Mary, Mother of God, exiled to a small dacha outside the city. He died 2 years later. The young assistant pastor was sent to a prison camp in Siberia, where he died. Now, they took away the priests, and they took away the cathedral, but they could not take away the faith. The people continued to meet and pray, reinforce their faith in God. They paid for this, many with their lives. Overall, about 7,000 Catholics in Vladivostok were executed. And this intense persecution suppressed the parish for the duration of the communist reign. For these dark days, let's fast forward ahead to 1991 and the collapse of the Soviet Union. The new government, under President Gorbachev, restored freedom of religion, promised to restore great church properties. The next year, 2 remarkable American priests, Father Myron Effin, Father Dan Marr, arrived to rebuild the cathedral and the parish. By placing a notice in the paper, they found 6 survivors of the pre-revolutionary parish, all elderly women. But from this beginning, the number of parishioners has grown to about 800, including those in the 4 little missions churches the priests also visit. Gradually, the cathedral was restored. The archive floors were removed, stained glass windows installed, thanks to donations from various sister parishes in the U.S. Lastly, the steeples were completed, 4 beautiful bells were installed. The church was then reconsecrated by the bishop. When rebuilding the structure in the parish, the priests did not ignore the gospel message to administer to the poor and to the needy. Today, they carry out many wonderful social service programs. I will comment on just a few. They support 6 crisis pregnancy centers in support of pro-life. Right now, about 60% of all pregnancies are aborted. They initiate a grandma mentoring program, pairs caring adults with needy orphans. These grandmas and grandpas receive a stipend of to spend 48 hours per month in personal one-on-one time with orphans. Now, you parents know how important this is to give attention to the infants here. It also helps support some parishes with inadequate pensions. They begin a program to feed and clothe the elderly and the children. They start an alcoholics recovery program. This is another major problem in Russia. The list goes on, but I hope this gives you a flavor for their wonderful works. In short, Father Myron, Father Dan accomplished wonders in their first years. However, they still have an enormous amount of work to do, depending on our support. There are various pieces of literature on a table in this vestibule. Please stop by, pick up some. I will be there, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. But again, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak to you. I thank you in advance for your generous contributions. Father.